Okay. Welcome everyone to our podcast on Zeiram, 1991 tokusatsu made by Keita Amemiya. It's me, Zero, here with.
Rye.
Hi, everybody. Dashinta here.
Uh, this is kind of a weird movie. Uh, but how old is this movie? When was it made?
1991.
Alright, that explains some of it. Uh, it's about this bounty hunter and her computer friend going after this alien called Zeiram, who escapes their initial attempt to catch him and runs to Earth. So they travel to Earth, and then these two humans get kind of involved. Uh, Iria, whatever it's pronounced,
Iria.
Iria, the bounty hunter. She's she's your pretty standard like bounty hunter. Like she does her job and she doesn't want to make mistakes. I guess I don't really have much to say about her personality because she didn't really have a lot going on for her, did she?
She kind of tended to be more stoic than anything. Like she's used to being alone, so doesn't really have much in the way of expression.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. She's like all professional and stuff. I kind of do all the characters pretty much have the same thing. Like it's standard writing where it's like you show one thing and then like throughout the whole movie they do the opposite, but like character growth and stuff or slightly revealing their character. But yeah, she starts off being like all professional. It's like, oh, do we have to use the zone? And I'm like, oh, is she concerned about the people? But then she's like, no, it's because we're gonna take a 30% cut if we use that thing. So I'm like, oh, it's all about the money. But then the rest of the movie is her just trying to help these guys, and it's like, you set one thing up and then you show like them being different, and like every single character kind of does that. I mean, it's very basic writing, but like and formulaic, but if it works, it works.
And then Bob, her computer, mentions that, like, oh, but if we do this, we can pay off their debt. And then, like, the debt is never brought up again. So, did it really matter that they were in debt? Was that just, like, a thing?
It was apparently a thing.
I think it's just more him trying to convince her to do things his way, and that's just his excuse this time.
Maybe.
I feel it's like basic setup stuff so they can get to the action of actually fighting this thing and then bringing in um, the two side characters that get wrapped up in this.
Uh, she at least, knows what she's doing. Like, if it wasn't for those two, she would have caught him the first try. And it
And that
would
would
have
have been
been.
kind of a boring movie if everything had just gone to plan.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, she would have done it successfully on her own. Uh, Bob, Bob was, like, half helpful this movie. Usually just complaining about how things were going.
I
I
swear
mean,
his
yeah, go.
visual avatar looked like something I've seen before, but I could never pin what it was. I,
Oh, I mean, yeah, go.
st- yeah, story wise, he kind of served the same role as Zarobun, the Garo franchise, which kind of makes sense. This kind of feels like a female hero oriented like early prototype for what would become Garo in a way, because hunting a monster, people get wrapped up in it, got to save the people from this weird situation.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like, it's super proto Garo, especially when it begins and it's like this shot in the dark and like all the blood, not kind of, the blood effects and stuff. I'm like, wow, this is totally what this creator would do. Um, But yeah, Bob is definitely like Proto Zarba and stuff. As for what he looks like, I think he kind of looks like uh, sh- um, it's kind of like a more like Eastern or like some Asian cultures have it. Like it's this like golden thing that the gods use. It creates lightning basically, or at least that's what it is in like Hindu mythology and stuff. Um, yeah, it's kind of like a. I mean, this whole movie has this weird like Buddhist monk, like slightly religious imagery, but it doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of has that effect, or like aesthetics for some reason. But I guess that might be what they're pulling from.
Would make sense. Uh, Amemiya has been known to kind of base some of his design work off of various mythologies. Like it's, I don't think it's ever consistent, but like it's like, how should I phrase this? You see the homages in this in his stuff. Like I think the highest rating you got with it was in the second Garo anime, where everything was kind of based off of more overtly Shinto mythology. Since that was the anime where they set everything in feudal Japan.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't seen that one.
Uh, Speaking of that kind of thing, the face on Zeiram's hat.
His actual face,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, which we find out is his actual face. That was just creepy. Uh, and like, I can't place like every time I've seen that, but that kind of just pure white face. That's definitely a thing in like Asian culture, isn't it?
Um, I think there are a few different things that utilize that kind of mask or fake face. Yeah, honestly, I wasn't really thinking too much of that, as it kept reminding me of like a Japanese version of H.R. Geiger's monsters, like the xenomorphs. You know, the whole second head thing, but it's not inside its.
Oh,
But it's not, the second head is not inside its mouth.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, like this thing is a pretty good mix of like a ton of different creatures and stuff, and if you're gonna pull from something, you might as well pull from like aliens if you're trying to do like a sci-fi horror thing. So I guess it worked out.
To be fair, from the full body shot of it, it looks like a better mix of the Predator and the Xenomorph than was seen in Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
Agreed. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Especially with like that first shot.
When near the end, when we see like what its true body is, I definitely was getting like a thing vibe from it.
Oh yeah, that too. From like the wiki article, it says it's supposed to be some type of super evolving organic organism that can change its form based upon the types of genetic material it encounters. Like it bites one of the two side guys at one point and then tries to create a clone minion out of one of them, and it doesn't go well. So it's like there's definitely support for the idea that it tries to adapt to the situation it's in to just keep surviving.
Yeah, I was kind of getting like a bioweapon feel from this thing, like very much like a Guyver type setup,
I was
where
getting
it's just like it's built to adapt. Yeah, keep.
I was getting this kind of like predator vibe from it early on, where it's like it's just coming to planets to hunt down what's there.
And then the hunter becomes the hunted when Iria shows up.
He was probably enjoying
Yeah,
that, like, hey, a challenge.
Mm. Kind of the problem with some of these monster movies is you don't really get the motivations of something that's clearly sentient in what they're going through. And
Yeah,
that's kind of one of the flaws of this movie. You don't really get where Zeiram, what Zeiram's even doing beyond, the fight with Iria and why Iria is even tracking it down, aside from it killing a bunch of guys in the opening of the movie.
like it's clearly dangerous. that was a specific raid to take him down, so he must have been like going planet to planet to kill different things. We just never really got a true scale of like what it was actually after, though.
Yeah, maybe they went into that in the sequel. I haven't seen the sequel yet.
There's a sequel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the same
there's
area,
there's a
and
sequel.
there's an anime prequel called Zeiram Iria Zeiram the Animation.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
How many
Like the
times has she
animation
been
is a treat.
hunting this thing?
At least twice, I guess. I think the sequel is like three different monsters or creatures, whatever.
I don't think
Uh,
the anime goes into the hunt for Zeiram, just a general backstory thing for Iria. I haven't actually seen the anime
Oh.
though.
Yeah, that would make sense. Find out more about that debt that she's in.
Mm.
Maybe find out how she got like as skilled as she is, cause she's definitely skilled.
I mean, she's like an alien bounty hunter. I think that's just kind of a given. It's sort of like the early Garo and stuff thing where it's like, why are you this good? It's like just because, and then it takes like season two to like fully flesh out like the world and stuff. But it's like a '90s movie with like half a budget. They don't really have time. As for like Zerum, I was thinking more that he's just like, okay, he was built to be like a bioweapon, and then now he's just running amok, or basically he's just trying to do his own thing, but like built for war. So it's going from place to place, and like if you get in his way, you die. So I don't think he's like super good or super evil. He just like shows up and like is super dangerous, and that's why people want him taken out.
Force of
So
nature
like,
philosophy to
yeah,
it.
it's pretty much like I don't think it would add that much. Like it depends on how sapient it is, but like throughout this whole movie, I think it's more just like reacting to things and just going on its way. So I just feel like giving it a backstory wouldn't really add that much.
Yeah, doesn't really matter why it's doing what's doing at this point. Then we have the two humans that just get caught up in all this. Tepe and Kamiya. Tepe is kind of a sleazebag.
Um,
Or no, Kamiya rather.
Kamiya, the one played by Yukijiro Hotaru, for of the normally he plays Guns in the Garo franchise, and honestly, I didn't recognize him in this movie because he had hair.
I didn't recognize him either, but that's
Holy
because I haven't
shit.
seen Garo.
I didn't realize. Oh my god. I'm like, I've seen this person. I couldn't place it.
You
Oh my
know,
god, that's amazing.
you want to know what's funnier about this? If you watch the dub, he's voiced by Robert Axelrod.
What?
Yeah, for those who don't remember offhand, Robert Axelrod is the voice of Lord Zed from Power Rangers.
That's like insane.
I know.
I mean, considering this is pre-Power Rangers, that's even more insane.
Well, they dubbed it in the 2000s, so it's not like that weird.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
Um,
Kamiya
yeah.
is like Kamiya's just like the full of himself type. Like, oh man, I got this pretty girl waiting for me, and then it cuts to the girl being like, I don't really care for that guy.
Yeah, and Kamiya's the one out looking out for his big break by him. Early in the movie, he was set up as a gambler, which kind of makes sense. And the two have some skills. They're electricians and like tech people, so it's like they're not completely useless, but they're mostly useless in this situation. Versus Iria, who's the skilled bounty hunter.
His
Yeah, I mean,
electrician skills did come in use.
Yeah, they did get used near the end of the movie, but it's like it wasn't exactly set up that well because the second they cross paths with Iria, they're shoved out of any chance of like being able to make people aware of that skill.
Well, he did hotwire that car.
Okay, he did hotwire the car.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like he's the most like I guess you could say like central character, or at least in the beginning he is. It's interesting because like literally like the whole thing of like oh you see one thing and like throughout the whole movie it's the exact opposite. It's true where it's like at the beginning like he's all like kind of a sleazebag, happy-go-lucky. He thinks like, oh, the world's going his way, and like it's kind of like worst day ever for him. And then, like he thinks he has like a good friend and like a girl waiting for him and stuff. And then like later on, you find out like no, they just find him annoying and think he's pretty much useless. But then like throughout this whole movie, you see that like no, when like shit's going down, this is the guy you can actually count on. So it's a good like setup and contrast thing. I mean, like all the characters kind of do that, but like I think Kamiya is like the best example of like you think he's gonna be this totally useless person, but like if you actually were in a disaster scenario, like he's pretty helpful. So that's
Like, Teppei couldn't fire that gun, and Kamiya took it from him, held it steady on his arm, and actually looked through the scope and shot it in one hit.
Yeah, this kind of thing. I mean, Amamiya is good at like visual storytelling cues and callbacks.
yeah. I was also gonna say, it's like you think Tepe, well, yeah, Tepe would be like the traditional hero because like he's got a girl waiting for him. He's the nice guy. Like he looks like the hero type, but throughout this whole movie, like he's just a regular guy, and you
He
think he would step up to be the hero, but he can't because like he doesn't have those skills.
he
Whereas like
panics.
yeah, exactly. Um, but without him, like this would have fallen apart because he was the guy who's like, okay, dude, like we have to work with this bounty hunter chick. Calm down. It's our only way to survive. So like without him, all three of them probably would have ended up dead. So
Uh,
it's kind of like everybody's skills comes into use.
And
Um,
he did
yeah.
make one
Eh,
smart call. When the second time when Camille was being attacked by the face and he had the gun, he remembered like I can't fire this because I can't aim for shit. And so picking up the bike and just throwing it was actually the better choice because he could have shot Kamiya by accident.
Yeah, that's one of the other things. Like the characters are smart. Also, the script is kind of smart where it's like, oh, I can't shoot. I mean, like Tepe is like, I can't shoot. I have to give it to Kamiya, and then like Kamiya shoots, and then like the monster bites his arm, so we can't use that tactic again. So
yeah.
like throughout the whole movie, it's like they try one thing and they can't use it again. So like they try the bombs, then they can't use the bombs. They try shooting it, then they can't shoot it, and like things like that. It's pretty cool. Like it's a good like escalation because like every time you think they have like this one trick that can beat the monster, it like gets taken away from them.
It's like, haha, no, you're not. You're not getting your win button.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's really like it's a really simple tactic, but it keeps the like intensity. Well, I'm not gonna say suspense, but like more of the thriller vibe because
Yeah.
it's like, oh shit, like what next, right? Every time we think we're safe or not.
Uh, and then I guess we did kind of just talk about Tepe a bit. So the setting where they like create this alternate dimension of the town to trap them in. That was a pretty neat tactic. It's one that's been used plenty of times before, but it's still like, yeah, you just eliminate all the civilians, and then you can just focus on the movie.
Yeah, do whatever you want, no consequences. This dimensional space will collapse after a while, so even if you like don't win, as long as they stay stuck in there, you'll still win.
There's just, oh hey Mixel,
Oh hey.
uh, we've already started, but do you have anything to say about the characters? Because we were going over them, like Iria, Bob, Kamiya, Tepe.
dot dot dot.
Maybe he's setting up. We'll come back to him.
Yeah. So there's one little like qualm
Hold
I
on, can
have.
you?
Oh, are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
We can
I'll
hear you now.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's
turn
good.
you up a bit.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we were just talking about the characters. Did you have anything you wanted to go over with them?
Well, I definitely found the two guys, Tepe and the other one,
Kamiya.
to be yeah, Kamiya. Yeah, they were kind of interesting because they certainly had their comedic moments, but I also liked it how they managed to drag them into a more serious story without just totally throwing us out of the movie.
So kind of like if they're pretty much the viewpoint characters for all this.
Yeah, I mean, because I'd looked up some summaries previously and gotten the impression that they were comic relief, but at the same time, they were actually quite integral to the storyline, and they really um, they were really quite competent as funny. So I liked that about them. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we were saying how Kamiya like the people that know him don't really think much of him, but then in this movie you see that he pulls through in a situation, whereas Tepe, the stereotypical guy that you would think would pull through, didn't.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. They did. I felt like they did have a little bit of a not exactly Abbott and Costello, but they did have rather different strengths and weaknesses.
So you can kind of see why they're friends, or at least amicable coworkers.
I think, yeah, not entirely certain about that, though. They definitely, um, I think they definitely do cover each other's backs when it's needed, despite the fact that they both seem like the last people you'd want on a dangerous mission like what they end up in.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like the interesting thing is like as close, like as close as they work in this movie and how well they kind of pair off each other. It's interesting where it starts off. You see, they're just kind of like coworkers, but like I mean, they're okay coworkers. You know, they don't hate each other or anything, but like they don't super like Tepe doesn't want to super rely on Kamiya, and like he doesn't want to tell him stuff, and like you know how Kamiya is like lying that like his wife died and stuff, and like Tepe is like, oh, your wife just left you, and then like he's like, who the hell told you that? And so like you see they're kind of friendly with each other, but they're not like good friends or anything, because like they like Tepe doesn't say, oh yeah, I'm dating this person, or like Kamiya doesn't say like, oh right, you know, this whole thing with his wife and stuff. So it kind of starts off as like, yeah, they're just coworkers, but like by the end of it, you can kind of see like, yeah, these guys are probably gonna be like pretty decent friends after this, because like you know they saved each other's lives at least. So even like with just the side characters, it's good to see them get like a little bit of like subplot and things like that.
Yeah.
Uh, Mixel, what did you think of Bob and Iria? Unless you already covered them.
Well, they were definitely interesting. I did kind of like Yuri, although some of their interactions almost felt a little forced. I think that's more of a story writing exposition kind of issue than an actual character issue, though.
I'm betting Yuko Murayama, Iria's actress's delivery for that. I don't think that helped either. She was a bit stiff.
Yeah. Though at some points when they were talking, I felt like the exposition was somewhat unnecessary, and words were thrown in to help with the world building that just wound up um, having no I felt had would have no purpose in a if that was happening in real life.
Like mentioning their debt.
Yeah, or that but when we use a zone, then we'll won't get paid as much, and all sorts of details like that. It just felt like it wasn't in there for the sake of building up um, a good story. It was just
In there.
yeah, it was just exposition because they needed exposition.
I was thinking that was more for like I don't know, like Bob and Iria's character, whereas like I think the depth thing is like, all right, Bob says, yeah, let's do things my way. I have this super great plan, and Iria's like, why the hell do I have to go with it? It's like, oh no, no, we'll do it our way, and it'll just pay off all our debts and like all the problems. So I think the depth line is mostly just to justify Bob's nonsense. Um,
Yeah,
and as for like the 30% thing, I think it's more just like Iria because the thing is like throughout this whole movie, she's generally trying to help people, kind of. But like when she says that, she's like, "Oh yeah, I only care because I'm not gonna get paid as much." So I think it's just trying to show off that she's kind of like a standoff bounty hunter type. As for her whole delivery, like I think she was okay. It's also because like I kind of feel that like she looks human, but she's not human. You have to remember that. So I kind
Right.
of feel like she's doing the whole like I'm an international bounty hunter or like intergalactic bounty hunter, I guess. Um, and so like I don't want to get involved with these people, so she's being like extra standoffish. Um, so I kind of forgave some of the like stiffness for that. Plus like like you have to remember that like Bob and her speaking Japanese isn't supposed to be their first language, so I kind of just allowed a little bit of leeway from that. But yeah, I can see how her acting could come off as like a little stiff.
yeah, that's true. And I also really liked how it turned out, how her and Bob were speaking to each other just as normal people, not really as just a person talking to a computer. I liked the little bit of personality that they gave Bob.
Yeah, that is true. Like, she only ever treated Bob as just like her partner. She never treated him as just a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of like a Kamiya trope because like if you watch Garo, that's basically the setup of like, oh, you're the main hero and like you're a assistant person who's basically just a tool, but we're gonna treat like a person. So yeah, this movie is basically prototype Garo.
I do need to watch Garo.
Do watch Garo. The sets are no longer that discounted, but Kraken's sub of it is very good. The actual Blu-ray releases in America.
Ah, I'll keep that in mind. Uh, so, uh, one little thing I had about this movie was that so Tepe's date was supposedly at 6, and it's not quite 6 yet when they go to the building, and then after Iria gets kicked out by accident, she mentions like, oh, that place won't last more than 30 minutes. But then after everything happens at the end of the movie, like you see the sun come up as it shines in through the building. It's like they were not in there all night.
Yeah, because it's all night stuff. I guess they wanted to have this like end note of the sun now rising, being dawn of a new day. No longer need to worry about this threat thing, and yet, yeah, time does not match up for that. Wouldn't be the first series to screw that up.
Nah. It's like, it's not that important. It's just something that stuck out to me. Like, no, based on everything we know, that shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. The time thing is a little off. I mean, you could explain it where it's like maybe she went it's collapsing now, it won't last 30 minutes then. Or maybe it's like 30 minutes inside the zone. Who knows how
Oh, like
that
time
thing.
moves differently.
Yeah, that's my best guess.
There are ways you can rationalize it.
Maybe she just meant, oh, 30 minutes till this movie ends. Who knows?
That did occur to me when she said that. It's like I didn't check how much time was left at that point though, but it's like, I wonder if she's just talking about the movie.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time in there. They kind of broke the fourth wall earlier when Tepe and Kamiya found Iria's equipment, and they kind of started snarking. Oh, was this for a movie? Oh man, those guys always use a lot of power and screw up the electrical. And then
No,
Amateurs.
and then they start messing with the stuff, and then they get warped into the zone.
yeah, I know.
See, at
I
first when he
found that
said
funny.
that, I thought he meant to watch a movie, but then afterwards I realized like, no wait, did he mean filming a movie? Ah ha
He
ha.
meant filming a movie, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, what? Did we walk into a movie set? Ah, those freaking amateurs, they're always stealing electricity. I was like, is that what they did? Is that why there's a freaking power line, hooked up from
Yeah,
like
the
this
reason why they
kind of
went to
park?
that building in the first place is because they're
No, 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 no. I mean the whole reason they had to be electricians is because they were actually doing it.
oh
or may, or maybe they did it in the past, like it's a Terminator situation where it's like, oh, we don't have permits. Oh yeah, let's just pretend we're student filmmakers.
Well, that would explain something Amamiya said in the making of interviews. Apparently, for the smoke effects, they didn't use smoke, but aerosolized oil, and
ah.
the the people around the place they were shooting had the laundry they had out on laundry lines affected by the oil.
Well, of course they did.
I
What
mean, that's a pretty terrible thing
was
to do,
replicating
but
smoke too expensive?
I think it's because
fog
it
machines
created
are a
a
pain in
more
the ass.
aerosolized effect than just normal smoke, which would just go straight up. It's not
Oh.
like they. A lot of times, how they do that effect is they utilize dry ice as it kind of permeates, and yet you kind of have to have a lot of equipment to move that around. Whereas, I guess aerosolized oil you can just spray out or something. I'm not exactly sure of the process there completely.
Yeah, fog machines are a real pain in the ass. I mean, apparently, from everything I've read, especially because they run really, really hard. So, like, you can't really touch the damn things when they're on. Otherwise, you're gonna get burnt.
So, the plot for this movie was pretty straightforward. Just like, there's an alien that we need to hunt, and then a couple of guys that shouldn't be involved get involved. I do like some of the little things they did though, like after they hotwire the car, they just ram him with it. Or Kamiya showing up on the excavator, but then turns out like, oh, he doesn't know how to pilot that thing.
How do you even get it moving if you didn't know how to pilot it, though?
That was
Maybe you
probably
have
much
like
easier than operating the crane itself.
yeah.
True. Fun fact about Zeiram, his suit actor is Mizuho Yoshida, who was a suit actor for a bunch of Toho works and was a motion capture actor for some Capcom games. Some of the mid-range Resident Evil ones and Onimusha Warlords.
Hmm.
That explains it. I mean, he does have a pretty good like movement setup. I mean, especially because the way Zeiram walks is pretty like, I guess, iconic for him. It's pretty interesting. Also for Onimusha, like Amamiya, because he did a lot of like cartography. I mean, not cartography, calligraphy work. So like
Art
Onimusha is like
design.
yeah, one of the franchises that he really worked on. Because he's done like a lot of yeah, art design for games and stuff. But Onimusha, I think he's done like all the games or something.
There were only four, so yeah. Oh, five. The fighting game,
if you count that.
if you count that. I count it more than Dawn of Dreams.
Uh, I don't really have much else to say. Uh, there was a few like subplot things brought up, like the Metis canon, we can't use that without permission, or Tepe's date that he never made it to, but
Well, you got more of the question of what's the Metis canon, and it's obviously never answered.
it's just a big gun.
Which, hey, people like big guns.
Seems,
That's what I was. Yeah, go ahead.
considering what it did to Zeiram's skeleton, I can understand that. Like, yeah, that seems pretty powerful. I can understand why they wouldn't just want people using that without, saying something first. Like, hey, we're gonna use this.
Yeah, to be honest, when she shot Zeiram with a bazooka, then I actually thought that that was the Mexican, though it turned out it wasn't.
Yeah, at first I did too, but then I'm actually glad it wasn't because it didn't nullify that whole point about like, oh, we're gonna send it to Zone Zero.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, like, the only thing that reminded me of is like Spectre, which is like this Konami one-shot tokusatsu thing, where it's like, oh, why didn't we use the big gun? It's like, oh, come on, man, you're like a hero. The hero's final big giant weapon shows up at the end. I'm like, you're the weapons controller sitting in the satellite. Like, is that what you should be saying to a guy on the ground? But I'm like, oh, that was so meta. But they kind of do, yeah, like how they show, like, yeah, this really strong thing, but you can't use it. Um, I think we've talked about everything else. Like, the special effects, I guess, should be mentioned because, like, even for tokusatsu shows, we don't see these types of effects that more. And like even in Gara and stuff.
Yeah,
So, what did you guys think of?
you don't see much stop motion anymore. Like the movies Amemiya directed in the late 80s, early 90s seem to make the best use of it. So again, you kind of see this as the prototype for some of his later work. You would see some of this in the one shot Kamen Rider movies that he did, and Mechanical Violator Hakaiter a bit more promptly.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like the more like insect like type thing, definitely probably helped him out in the '90s movies. I don't think I've seen all of Hakaiter, but yeah, definitely a lot of stop motion in the '90s Rider movies. Which is interesting because like he's had such like a varied history considering like he's done like at this point like Sentai Rider movies like Kakaider, and then like he has his own franchise plus like Zeiram and stuff. So it's cool to see that, especially considering like, oh man, like the weird like spider leg effect things are so freaking creepy. But like I was watching some behind the scenes stuff for how they do those effects, and it's like it's always easier to pull stuff out than it is to put it uh um, yeah, like,
Back
or is it to put it back in and stuff? And so what they usually do is they shoot it backwards and then they just reverse the film. So
It
like
wouldn't be
if
the
it's
first time. A lot of the early camera effects of them jumping out of the water were done that exact way.
yeah, I meant more like like the aliens coming. Okay, this is one of those like funny ass things where like the more you know about aliens, the funnier it gets. So like, um, the like eggs pulsing in Aliens is just like Ridley Scott with a glove through one of the egg prosthetics, just like moving his hand back and forth. Um, and like the like legs coming out of like the eggs and stuff. It's just them just putting the legs back in and then just reversing the footage in the way like I think this is like Aliens 2 or Aliens 3. where it's like the facehugger is just like running across the floor and jumping, and what that is like them putting the facehugger on the like bench thing and then just pulling it backwards and then reversing the footage and then just um, throwing it after that and then just reversing the footage for that. So it's like a lot of reverse takes and stuff. And it's one of those like cool things that you don't see because like when it's CGI, you just do it in order. But when it's like physical effects, it's kind of fun how like they reverse footage or like shoot it upside down and things like that. Like the weird thing of like aliens where it's like oh shit, originally they wanted to the suit had to crawl like on the roof, so they're like, oh crap, we're gonna have to get this crane and this weird setup and it's gonna cost all this much. And like uh James Cameron was like, I guess the direct no, not the director, he was either doing visual effects or he was doing like cinematography or something. It's like, hey, the roof's the same as the floor. Let's just shoot it on the floor and pretend it's the roof.
Like, just flip the camera upside down.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, it's just fun stuff. I kind of wish they would like, make like a behind the scenes because it'd be so interesting to see how they did the effects. But it's been so long, I don't think that's.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
I love that in the first movie, I forget who it is that first has the alien pop out of his chest, but he was the only one that was told what would happen. The others were told, alright, so something's gonna happen, just react to it. They didn't say how graphic it was gonna be, they didn't say how good an actor he was going to be. Everyone was legit screaming.
I've heard of that. Yeah, takes a certain kind of movie.
It takes a certain kind of director to pull that off that kind of dick move.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of genuine. Forgetting the word I'm trying to phrase.
Realism?
Realism. Go for that realism.
Authentic.
Authenticity, yeah. Iria's suit.
Yeah.
That was
the visor thing was really fucking weird.
Yeah. The main body armor, though, excluding how it does not cover her chest at all, it kind of reminded me, at least in some ways, with the asymmetry of the arms, like Get 'em Dangerous Zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more the color contrast of black and white that's pulling that up for me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I thought about this was because it's so like cloth-like and stuff. I was thinking more like Shibuya 15, where they basically kind of have like this more like cloth, but like padded cloth type armor, but it's more gray. And then it just has like CGI weapons.
And the way they shot its introduction, it's like, this is directly Super Sentai with how they're zooming in on all the parts of the body, which makes sense because Amemiya had done a bit of Super Sentai directing by that point.
Yeah, I think they do that with they've done that with a lot of different tokusatsu shows. I mean, I saw it once or twice in Ultraman, so I mean, it really is everywhere, kind of ubiquitous.
So any final thoughts, I guess?
Overall, I enjoyed the movie. Its age definitely shows, but it's not bad. I'll definitely like check out the sequel sometime.
Yeah, I thought it was decent for what it was. It's not exactly deep, but it's just a basic bounty hunter story with these two other guys getting thrown into things. It's like, you're not getting anything that deep, but the direction is definitely early Amemiya and is worth a watch for anyone who's gotten into his stuff with the more recent Garo franchise.
Yeah, I did like the kind of twist of using relatively funny characters in a serious situation around the middle of the movie, and I definitely liked some aspects of it. A lot of aspects did kind of feel forced, like with the exposition near the beginning, though overall it was pretty neat. Pretty neat.
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly solid. That's what I thought. Um, Especially for how old it is. Like, damn, this holds up pretty damn solid. I mean, especially because like it's clearly a low budget tokusatsu, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and yeah, they did so much. It's one of those things where I was watching like a stream of Bruno, I guess, yeah, from like Garage Heroes, and he's like, yeah, go back and watch like older tokusatsu and not just the major ones because they give you so many more ideas because like they clearly don't have the budget. And he was just saying like he was watching like Grand Caesar and that series and stuff. But like yeah, you watch this and you realize like yeah, you don't have to do all this flashy stuff to make a tokusatsu. As long as you have like an okay plot and like a couple decent suits, I guess, or like passable suits, you can do a lot with just like atmosphere and like decently likable characters.
Which a lot of more recent series have been screwing up to varying degrees. Yeah.
I do have I have one question about this movie, and it's not even that important. But like the whole time, Tebe is like, "Oh, I have to be done by 6. I have somewhere to be at 6." Uh, and then at the very end, when Kamiya's returning his watch to him, he's like, "Oh, was your date actually at 5:30?"
Ah, I didn't even notice
Uh,
that.
that is harsh, man. But I think it's more just like it's yeah, I guess maybe it's one last funny line, or maybe it's just showing like you think it'd be like at the start of your day, you would think like, oh shit, I missed my date. It'd be so important. But like after the shit they've been through, it kind of puts it all into perspective.
The
Maybe
dude is
that's what they're going.
terrible luck.
Yeah. Anything else or
I think that's it. Uh, so thanks for joining us tonight. Uh, we'll see you next time. You guys want to say bye to the audience?
Oh, right. Bye.
See you.
yeah, thanks for joining us everyone and we'll catch you next time.